All right, that's excellent.
That was amazing.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Get Your Paint On with Dallas Kemp. I am Brendan Roy, a studio painter here at Privateer Press. With me is
Mr. William Hungerford, and behind the turntable, Mr. Lyle Lowry.
Hello. So we got get your paint on today. What are you painting, Brendan?
I am painting up the new Circle Warlock that is currently in the CID.
Yes, she is. Iona the Unseen.
Yes.
Part of the Devourer's Host CID for the Tharn. And as you can see, she's one of the female Tharn. She's got what the punching claw and the sword in her hand. A lot of conversation about her right now in the CID forums. People are testing her out and see when they can pull off with her.
It's very exciting.
And the CID just started for that, right?
The CID started for it. What is today? Thursday. It started yesterday. Oh, it's all blending together.
I mean, yesterday's just started.
So, Brendan, what aspects of the miniature are you painting today?
As much as possible. This isn't the studio model. This is my own personal model, which will more than likely just be thrown on Pagani's desk when the stream is over.
Are you just going to give it to him?
He can finish it.
Oh.
Yeah, because I'm probably not going to finish it by the time we're done here. But I've already went ahead and did a lot of the leather, the skin, the bone work. And I'm going to work on the hair and do some tattoo work on her during the stream today is my plan.
Cool.
Anyways.
Awesome. Did you say tattoo work?
Tattoo work. I'm going to give her some tattoos.
That's going to be awesome.
What kind of tattoos?
Just little diddly doodles.
Okay.
Nothing
Diddly
too...
doodles.
Not like a heart that says mom or like
well, I'll do a heart that says Mom.
a popular cartoon character.
Yeah, we'll do a heart that says Pagani or something like that.
Oh, my God.
That's a great idea.
So we'll get there in due time.
That is the best idea I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, so I'm open to tattoo suggestions, of course, because,
Oh, well,
again,
Twitch chat, you just heard it. For those of you joining us, hi. We're Privateer Press. We stream 3 times a week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, always at 10 a.m. Pacific. Tuesdays is the weekly Rumble, where we play the games we make. Wednesdays is the Dev Chat, where we on the development team get together and talk about community integrated development cycles, stuff that's going on with the game. And then Thursdays is what you're watching now, Get Your Paint On, where Dallas, Brendan, and has Jordan ever been on this?
I don't think he has yet. No.
Okay.
We'll get him on here soon enough.
Paint. Talk to you about hobby tips and tricks, and go over all the really, really cool aspect of the hobby and show you things you didn't know, like how to paint tattoos. So if you've got any questions, we are streaming twitch.tv/privateerpress. Come ask us some questions. Brendan will be happy to answer. And you can always catch these videos afterwards on YouTube if you miss one at youtube.com/privateerpressprime.
That was so professional.
I know. That's what we call a good reset in the biz.
I mean, I do weekly Rumble
You
and,
do,
and Dev Chat like a lot, so I'm just used to this.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night halfway through that spiel?
No, that would be amazing. I do enough weird stuff in my sleep, so that wouldn't be the weirdest.
So people are excited for her, is what you're saying.
Yeah, the Tharn CID has been really positive. I mean, there's a couple things people definitely want to see get better, and there's some interesting tests going on. There's been a lot of conversation about Iona, but we're seeing, she's got a lot of power, like force multipliers, and what she does for the Tharn. So conversations about her feat only affecting the Tharn, but in general, we've had a lot of good conversations, a lot of good discussions amongst the community, and the battle reports are starting to flow in, and so far they're looking pretty solid.
So what is your favorite and most exciting part about the Tharn CID then?
For me?
For either a rule, a model, or...
I'm really excited about the Well of Ouroboros. I think the model, so for a multitude of reasons. Typically, my answer is the newest Warlock or Warcaster, because they always add so much to an entire army. Like, you can be a Signar player, or you could just be a Trencher player, or you could just be a Haley player. Like, there's a lot of ways you can break down how you enjoy War Machine, and I like that casters are definitely one of the options. You can just be like, I just play butchers. That's what I like. But that said, the Will of Ouroboros is an insane-looking model. I'm waiting to see how it gets cut up in the engineering and like how it's actually going to get put together, because it's basically floating in midair. And it's rule that allows you to gate in any model from out of your game, like a solo. It's a non-character solo, no current point restriction. You just get to teleport a solo in, which allows you to break the theme force restrictions. So you can be playing Devourer's Host and teleport in somebody who's not part of that theme force. Also lets you break FA restrictions. It is non-character, so you can't teleport in Uno 1 when you're playing Uno 2, but say you take 2 Wolf Rider champions, you could gate in a third. So I think there's some really interesting opportunity there, and I'm waiting to see where it ends up shaking out based on the battle reports. What about you? What's your favorite?
Mine is going to be the well as well.
Oh yeah,
Well as well.
for what reason?
The well as well.
Well, the thing that's most attractive to me and always has been about the circle is the hit and run tactics and like the stones.
Yeah,
And it's such a staple of their gameplay that's just another way of introducing ways to create that kind of unpredictability in how your opponent's going to engage your force and how you're going to be able to engage your opponent's force. And that's the main draw of War Machine to me overall anyways.
you're excited about hyper aggressive then, the hyper aggressive ability on all constructs that the well gives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes.
He just turns to us and he's like, "Oh yeah." That's what I should do. Is I should narrate everything you can't see, guys.
Yeah.
And Brandon, with one paintbrush in his mouth, takes the other one to his model, gently caressing it with paint.
God, I've missed having you on stream, Lyle. I've missed having you on stream so much. So Twitch chat real fast. Let's see. Riker's Iron says his favorite unit, fluff-wise, is getting lots of love. That being the Bloodweavers. He's really excited about having the Bloodweavers. Striker 911 saying total Trencher player, just waiting on my Trencher Warcaster. I mean that was kind of Siege too. He came out in that cycle, ish, kind of. There is the Trencher Journeyman Warcaster, so that already exists.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those of you in chat right now, feel free. Like Brendan said, he's going to be painting some tattoos on Iona later. So if you've got tattoo ideas, feel free to pitch them. Obviously, Brendan will not take them all, but if something strikes his something is his muse, he might do
I'll
it.
take anything that is
PG?
allowed for me to be painted on the stream.
Sure.
So Brendan, looks like you're doing a red hair, but I don't know if a particular good red color that you don't have to mix. Basically, like you can make a lot of cool mixes. Bloodstone's pretty close. You can make a nice reddish brown with bloodstone. But what are you doing for this one?
So for this one, I started with, I did mixes. I started with Bloodstone, and I mixed in Scorn Red to brighten it up, to make it more red so it doesn't look so bloodstony, more muddy. And then I started adding some Cador Red, or Ember Orange to that for the highlights, and then I added some more Moldy Ochre to that.
Nice.
If you're not a fan of mixing, you could just do Bloodstone to Ember Orange to Moldy Ochre. And then I would do a wash after that. And that'll kind of tie it all together and tone it all down, so it's not so bright and blondish looking. But as long as you have the predominant Bloodstone with a decent amount of Ember Orange, it should look red.
But you could do so much with color mixing, so you shouldn't be afraid to do it.
You shouldn't be afraid to color mix. Yeah.
Lyle, are we also on Facebook, or are we only on Twitch?
We're only on Twitch
Okay.
because our computer is having some real problems with Facebook for reasons we do not understand.
Okay. So technical difficulties for anybody who's been messaging me. We're not on Facebook today, just on Twitch.
Come join us on Twitch, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening to this already, you're probably already on Twitch.
Yeah.
In fact, it's kind of impossible.
I guess what we should do is
That's
message those
future-proofing
people
for-
back.
Yeah.
Join us on Twitch, everyone.
That is what I'm going to do.
And now I'll narrate that.
Lyle, I need you to make everything as weird as possible.
That's what I'm here for.
So, Brendan, you play a lot of War Machine.
I play a lot of War Machine.
A lot. How many games a week right now? 2 or 3? 5?
Well, not that much. Not that much. Not as much lately, but I tried to get in 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since you're not often on the stream, a lot of people may not know what you play. And at the local game store that a lot of us play at, I often see you there with different armies.
I often have different armies, yeah.
What are you currently playing?
I just switched to, so I did something that I normally don't do, and I actually I have a full faction now of Convergence.
Okay.
And that was the first time. And usually I pick play styles I enjoy from a Warlock or a faction, and I make an army list out of that. And I play it. And then I do my best to create a list pairing that would complement it, that would also be fun to play.
Sure.
And if I have trouble doing that, I will navigate and find myself in another army list later that might be a part of a different faction. And that's generally how my war machining goes. It's always gone that way.
Okay.
I would rather, I'm not a faction loyalist because I love them all. So I just go to whichever play style is what I'm feeling in the moment, and I like to go with optimization. So I usually go with the play style of the caster that does that the best. Like Cray is probably my favorite melee, and kind of right now my favorite circle warlock. Because
Did you say Cray?
Cray, because he does hit and run so well.
Okay.
And he engages your force. So I've been playing a lot of Cray, but the Tharn CID has really changed that for sure. Because Chromac has been one of the top end guys that I love playing. I love seeing on the table. I love his model and I love his character. So the Tharn CID is definitely going to have me back on him.
Yeah.
The changes to Living War Beasts. And then the theme force itself.
So many beasts getting Pathfinder.
Oh, yeah. I mean, oh, yeah. And cheaper. So I'll take it.
Striker911 on Twitch says, how excited are you guys to at the start of a CID cycle? Do you look forward to it, or do you dread dealing with it? We never dread dealing with it. It's our job as developers here. So it's like having a big project coming up. It's like having a deadline, or you've got this thing you've got to do at work. So we love interacting with the community and hearing what everybody thinks. But in terms of the anticipation, I'd say it's like going into a meeting where you have to give a presentation to a bunch of people and then get their feedback instead of come back to it. There's excitement leading up to it, but it's like we are kind of like sleeves rolled up, ready to work. Is how I at least approach it.
Now, for me, though, like when you say it's like going into a meeting for the presentation, that sounds like dread to me.
Oh, you know me. I don't mind talking in front of people. So to me, it's just like, here's this thing. We've been working on it. Tell us what you think. Like and then let's dig into it and go to it.
Now, if you're just joining us, Brendan is taking requests for tattoo work. So give us your suggestions for tattoo work, and we'll see what Brendan can do with it.
We'll see what I can do with it. I'm not trying to say I'm a professional tattoo model painter by any means. I'll also take tips and hints and tricks if anyone has any.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit, because this is Get Your Paint On. It's all about hobby tips and tricks. How do you normally approach painting a tattoo on a model with this color flesh tone?
Well, the color of flesh tone doesn't make that big of a difference. You just kind of got to make sure that, like, to me, it doesn't. You just have to make sure the color of the tattoo is going to be dark enough that it's noticeable, especially on a miniature.
Okay. So, like, if it was a troll blood with blue skin, you're saying it
you'd
would
probably want not a darker tattoo. You'd probably want a brighter tattoo.
Okay, I got you.
Or a very dark tattoo, like black on troll blood skin looks nice. Or you'd have to go the reverse. If you did like a blue tattoo on troll blood, it'd be harder to see. Which looks nice on studio models, because we definitely have that going on in studio models a lot. But on a tabletop model, it starts to blend in and blur together, and it's difficult to see from far away.
Sure. But do you just sort of freehand the entire tattoo, or is there like a method you use to actually get it done?
Like this is just like me messing around, so I'm just going to freehand tattoos, and it's going to be abysmal, and it's going to be terrible. But normally you'd probably want to structure it and break it down, and kind of like, especially if it's symmetrical, like do points and then fill in the points.
Yeah.
I don't have a good way of describing it, but it definitely should be something we work on. Getting on some tutorials later on.
Yeah.
On Fridays.
I mean, some of the best looking models is just those little accents you can give them, and tattoos are a really cool way of doing it.
The biggest tip I could do for any sort of fine detail is just to make sure that your paint is watered down enough and it's flowing very easily.
Yeah. And a really fine tip on your brush too, right? Like. Yeah,
that's definitely going to help. And if you don't have a fine tip, do design patterns as opposed to like pictures,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be easier to do, which I'm going to do plenty of that on this, because I prefer to do that because it's faster and free-flowing and effective. But right now I'm trying to do this hard.
All right,
so we've got some pretty good suggestions coming in already. So Onino J says, a hula girl, but a Tharn. Riker's Iron, I really like this one. Riker's Iron says, a worm eating a Menifix.
All right.
Ponto Hornblower says, cheetah print, maybe? Striker 911 says, a rose with vines that creep down her arm, or maybe her thigh.
All right. Well, I can relate to that one a little bit.
And somebody just said clip remarks, one for each victim.
Oh, that's real easy.
Get a.
She has none because she lets everyone else kill for her.
Oh, okay.
No, she would have just a body full. So we'll start going through some of that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, no, whatever you paint whatever you want, man.
Oh.
This is the super chill show.
I very often will paint clipper marks then.
All right, so we're gonna get some.
Because it's just easy.
Some clipper marks on her.
Yeah.
And what paint are you using for this?
So for this, I'm kind of just going with a very dark CMR plus coal black. You could just go straight coal black. If you want a tattoo to look realistic and not newish, mixing in a little bit of the base skin tone color really helps out a lot because then it kind of makes it look like it's faded.
Okay. See, learn. That's why I like coming on this show.
Yeah.
I'm on this show like once every few months, and every time I come on here, I'm just learning.
Just soak it all in.
I do, because I do a lot of painting myself,
Mm-hmm.
and like little things like that, and I had no idea.
I don't want to steal her valuable real estate tattoo space with clipper marks. So I'm trying to.
You're just doing a few little light ones.
Yeah.
You know, it's really hard to put tattoos on. Gatorman.
I'm sure.
You could do blood though. It's
Oh,
all
man.
the blood.
I have so many blood effects on my Gatorman. It's ridiculous.
So what would Gatorman have in lieu of tattoos, though?
Piercings.
Piercings, sure.
Yeah, which is more conversion work, I think. Well, I take that back. You could do paint, right? Like tribal
war
style.
paint? Yeah.
Like war paint.
Mm-hmm.
Which I have I have 3 Calibans, and 2 of which were not painted by me. No, wait, I didn't paint any of those. All 3 of those were not painted by me. And one of them has Voodoo Doctor style war paint over his face, like in the skull motif. It looks so awesome.
Oh man, I don't remember what leopard print looks like. What color that is.
Leopard print?
Yeah.
It's just like leopard yellowish, like
But
that
it's
sort
but
of
it's black.
black and that sort of really, really bright
I'll give it a shot.
yellow orange.
We'll see how this goes.
Oh, I'm excited for this. Nice little leopard print tattoo.
Just fading into the skin. Well, that's the idea. And they've suggested these in chat, right? So if it doesn't work out well, we can remember their name and blame them later.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we'll do is we'll tattoo the person's username from Twitch underneath the tattoo that didn't look good,
Sweet.
so that it's forever.
I just want that security.
Well, so what have you been painting for yourself recently?
For myself, I've been assembling a full convergence army, so not a lot. For
Okay, so
myself.
you're in assembly mode right
Yeah,
now,
I'm in assembly mode at the moment.
which is its own aspect of the hobby, right? Like,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like you can spend just as long getting stuff put together as you do painting, especially convergence, which depending on the scheme you go with, you might be able to paint them up really quick.
Yeah, and it takes me a little bit longer to
Was I off?
because the
You're
assembly
a
is,
little off.
Okay.
the assembly portion for me is also like when I'm deciding what everything's going to look like, what the basin's going to look like. So
Sure.
sometimes it'll just be unpainted for a while, but that's because I'm trying to work it all out.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure other people are similar.
So Onion J asks which Warcaster. He just says which Warcaster, but I assume this is Iona the Unseen. If you're asking which Warlock he's painting, but it does bring up another question: which Warcaster in Convergence are you most excited about?
I'm very excited for Locke
Sure.
and Axis.
It's like the trick answer. Lock. Nice.
Well, she's just a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've played a couple games with her already, and I'm excited to play a lot more.
Engine
She just
Destruction's
fits my
pretty good.
play style. I haven't been using that much. Like it's nice when it needs to be done, but running up Colossal into someone and jackhammering it
Sure.
gets the job done. So it's just extreme threat range that they have to start worrying about real soon.
Yeah, I'm just saying if you absolutely have to hit something, having Engine Destruction,
Oh,
your
yeah, for
toolbox
sure.
is so nice.
She has an amazing toolbox. That's what's so exciting about her.
You should, if you do any conversion work, you should give her a tiny little toolbox. Just add one to her hip, like she's wearing it. So if you're just joining us right now, Brennan's painting Iona the Unseen, and right now he's doing tattoo work based off suggestions from Twitch
I don't know
chat.
if you can see it that well, unfortunately.
It may not show up. It might be a little light for the camera, but you're doing the leopard print right now?
I'm trying to. Yeah, once I get there, I'm going to cheat and
Look up
look it up real quick.
Yep.
But that's an important tip. Like, you should definitely use references when you're trying to make something look like something else.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. All right. See, that makes a lot more sense now.
Oh, that's
Okay.
what a cheetah
Oh,
looks like. Brendan pulls the phone out of his pocket.
Yeah. Well, it is important to realize what those dots look like. Because I would have just thought they were solid black off of memory, but actually looking at them, they're littler dots inside of other dots.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it
Or
like
edging other dots, rather.
isn't it like 5 dots around like a cluster?
The
Or is
one
that-
I just saw was like 3 around a bigger, like reddish. So that's what I'm going to go for. A little easier to get on here.
I don't remember if it's a cheetah or a leopard, but there's like a old, what do you call it? Like one of those tall tales or legends of like how things came to be or whatever, that leopards or cheetahs got their prints because they're like fingerprint marks from a dude who painted a leopard with his fingers. I don't know.
Let's see what's going on Twitch chat right now. Red Death asks, any word on female Tharn resculpts? No word on that. Onomatopoeia wants tattoos of meat for her abattoir ability. Let's get through the leopard print first.
Just random meat.
Just random chunks of meat, like Scooby-Doo style meat, like with the bone and everything.
All right, guys, bear with me for a second. I'm going to see if I can bring down. It looks like the color's kind of blown out from the right side, so I'm going to see if I can bring it down just a little bit.
Oh, I see that tattoo starting to take shape, though.
Yeah, it's starting to look good.
Yeah,
At first, there was nothing, and now there's a tattoo.
There is a tattoo. So we're gonna play with some. Lyle is gonna use his technological mastery of Twitch streaming to do some crazy stuff. Don't adjust your dials, which you can't do on a phone or a computer, really, but.
So the idea isn't to necessarily copy the reference I just looked at verbatim and perfectly. I'm just trying to give you the sense of what I saw.
Yeah.
And that's all you really need to do for any of this. 'Cause that's all you're doing is trying to simulate. Sorry, I get focused when I'm
You're allowed to.
trying not to slip my brush.
That's why we're here, as we're supposed to be talking whenever you're focused in.
You can see a little bit.
You can see a little bit of it, yeah.
All right, that's a leopard. What was next?
So you did the cross marks on the leg, like the kill marks?
Yeah, we got a little bit of those on the leg. The leg is just the most visible open space. That's why I keep going to the leg.
Okay, so you did the leopard. Yeah.
I got a little heart here, but that's like too hard to see, so I'm just not gonna.
So other things that we got requests for were meat, a vine with a rose running along some part of her.
Okay.
And
A worm eating a minifix.
a worm eating a minifix.
Okay.
I think we got to do that one.
Okay. I have an idea. I don't know if it's gonna work. This is very ambitious.
Hey man, you know what? It's okay to be really ambitious and do this on the cuff, because the worst thing that happens is, like, it doesn't look good, and that's a good lesson, because like sometimes you do things, they don't work out, and then you just fix them or you try something else. You don't give up on the model, right? You're like, man, I screwed up my edge highlighting on this helmet, and now like I'm gonna throw the model in the trash. No, you just you repair your mistakes and keep moving forward.
And I mean, to be honest, a partially eaten manifix can look pretty messed up.
Yeah, it's true.
It could be pretty jangly.
Brendan is in the zone right now, so it's just gonna be you and me for a second here, Lyle.
Well, the hard part is trying to
It's going
find a
in the
place
tank.
to actually do this.
Oh,
Instead
you
of
don't-
just being this gorgeous thigh that she has going on in the front.
Sure, you're looking for enough real estate to do it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Sometimes you have an idea and you're like, that'd be cool. And then you get the miniature and you're like, oh man, it's just not going to work out here. But you keep it in your back pocket for later.
I don't know how to do a snake eating a manifix.
I mean, if you
Not
think-
without it looking like the crick symbol regurgitating up a manifix.
Sure.
But we're doing the thorn and the rose first. 'Cause that might be a little easier.
You're going to do the
Volume
thorn and the
work
roses?
stuff. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so Thorn of the Roses seem like they would be. I mean, green lines, couple little marks off the side, then some like reddish, pinkish blossoms, right?
Yeah, so I'm kind of just laying a groundwork with the dark line color, the really dark coal black Thamar, and then I'll go back over and clean up with the actual color.
Yep. And I see Twitch chat is talking about the resculpts about female Tharn. Like I said, there's no word about it right now, but that doesn't mean we'll never ever will. I'm also in development, so don't ask me what's being resculpted. When I found out that Hexeris 1 was being resculpted, it was as much a surprise to me as it was to everyone else. So I don't think they're being resculpted, but I haven't heard anything. Doesn't mean they wouldn't ever be resculpted if that was the case. Well, what are you painting right now?
I'm painting Monster Apocalypse stuff, mostly buildings.
Oh, yeah?
Super hyped for tiny buildings right now.
Yeah, is tiny buildings your jam?
Yeah, it's my jam.
Are you doing any conversion work on them?
Yeah, so actually Dallas and I were talking about on the last stream where we're kind of working on different ideas for battle damaged buildings.
Yeah.
So buildings that have sort of survived the initial monster apocalypse, I guess.
Sure.
So we're coming up with different ideas, and the one I'm excited about doing right now is doing like a clean cut gouge through the side of the building and then blackening the edges, but then like making ember glow at the very cut mark, so it's like laser burn straight through it.
That would be sweet.
Yeah. So yeah, working on buildings and excited about different ways to bust them up.
So, in a world where I have infinite talent, which I don't have,
right?
The conversion I would do, because I'm all about Martians, was I would make a really big saucer, like Ares Mothership style saucer, but I wouldn't make it Ares Mothership because she's like one of the main monsters, right? So maybe like a series of the smaller saucers. And I would disassemble a building into Tetris style blocks and have them floating up in midair being sucked up into the saucer beams.
That would be amazing.
And like have the saucers at the top and have little chunks of the building floating up and like use resin beams. Like don't use clear beams, use like, resin tractor beams. And just that's my infinite talent conversion that I will never really have.
You could do like a Man of Steel, where like gravity like lifts everything up and slams it down, so it could be like mid lift up.
Oh yeah, I was actually thinking more the way the Technodrome came together in TMNT Out of the Shadows, where it's all sort of those like giant Tetris shaped blocks flying together, and I was like, yeah, having a building come apart like that is just how I envision the Martians sucking things up.
So while we've got a moment, let's talk real quick about Black Anchor
Heavy Industries. Yeah, the Supreme Guardian.
So yeah, Supreme Guardian, amazing model. That's up for pre-order right now, right?
Yeah, it's available in pre-order till September 10th. So time is starting to run a little short on that.
That's definitely a model I want to get my hands on the paint. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's really good.
I'm probably going to start a small exalted force. When I say that, I mean like literally a 75-point army, because I've played so much Scorn here, obviously as dev, but I don't own Scorn in my personal collection.
All right.
But I think the exalted are like one of the coolest aspects of Scorn.
It's out of focus, but we got the rose, and then we got the vine coming down.
Oh, nice.
It's the best I can do. The real estate isn't. I mean, I use it all in that leopard print.
What we should do. Maybe get some photos of these after this is done and post them up on Twitter so everybody can see some close-ups of those tattoos.
Oh, that sounds embarrassing for me.
Oh, well, then we won't do that then. But yeah, no, the Supreme Guardian is super awesome. The Bahi pre-orders are still good to September 10th. It's at store.privateerpress.com. And if you pre-order, you get the Black Anchor Heavy Industries patch, which if you're a tough guy or a tough girl, that does mean you have a denim jacket and you hang out at biker bars. And I think a Black Anchor patch will really let everyone know that you're not to be trifled with. Because when I think a tough biker, I think Black Anchor patch on a denim jacket.
Me too, definitely.
So
wearing a Black Anchor Industry oven mitts.
Well, yeah. So you roll in, right, and you got your Black Anchor T-shirt.
Your trucker hat.
You've got your Black Anchor trucker hat. You're rocking your denim jacket, which is covered in Black Anchor patches. You're holding some Black Anchor ale, which has not been ever released. That's just for us to use. Maybe a slug of Black Anchor rum that's wrapped in your Black Anchor koozie that you're holding in the black anchor oven mitt.
Uh-huh.
And you walk in, everybody's like, "Whoa, don't mess with that one. They're a dangerous lunatic."
But little do they know, you just play miniature war games.
So if you want to get that pre-order, that's at store.privateerpress.com, right?
Yeah, store.privateerpress.com. The other really cool thing we've got right now, speaking of miniatures, is the new cycle of mini crate just started. So there's the new Grimkin Rose, like the Little Red Riding Rose. I almost said Little Red Riding Hose, but I didn't. I said Rose.
Sidestep that one.
Sidestepped that one and then called it out on purpose. So Little Red Riding Rose is available at mini-crate.com, and the VIP model for this cycle, which means if you get a subscription for 6 months, whatever your next miniature in the cycle is, this is the VIP model you get, is the Alexia Handmaiden of Death. She looks
And that's an amazing model.
freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So Brendan, what are you working on right now that your rose is done? I kind of see the rose shape. I mean, it looks really good.
It's starting to look really good.
Yeah, the rose shape-ish.
That leopard print looked dope.
The leopard print. You got the hash marks.
Yeah.
So I have this heart, which I got to write something in it. Probably has to be mom, because I made a pretty small heart here.
How many letters do you think you can fit?
I can fit probably half a letter, but I'm going to try to do 3.
You're gonna try and do 3. This is gonna be Pagani's Iona.
Yeah.
What if you wrote Ash for his baby Asher?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice
Why
idea.
are you being meta?
That's so sweet.
Okay.
Oh,
That's going to be
yeah.
difficult.
Hopefully he's not watching right now. It's a surprise to him.
Bet he has a kid.
But he just had a baby, Asher George,
I don't think I'll be able to do that.
and I'm fairly certain Asher's nickname as he's growing up is gonna be Ash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if you can fit it in there, sweet. If not, yeah, whatever.
Okay, you're not going to be able to see this on the stream, but I got an A. I can do a P, and that'll just be Ash Pagani. That's the best I can do.
Oh yeah, that'll work. Striker 911 says, "Please make it look good, otherwise it'll say ass inside the heart."
Oh, that's way better. Just make it ambiguous. Now it just looks like she loves the Associated Press.
Nailed it.
Oh man, it's an editor's dream. Like she just really loves AP style.
All right. So tattoos. We taking the tattoo requests. What do you want to work on next, Brendan? On our, what are you in the mood? What are you in the mood for?
I'm probably going to. I don't know. I could add some blood to her sword, I think.
Cool.
What's
So-
your blood recipe?
Yeah, I was about to say, tell us the blood recipe.
It's mainly ink. So we're going to try to find some ink in this glorious box pile.
Brendan turns to his right. He
I've
reaches
done
down.
blood before, so obviously everyone knows
So it's
what the recipe is. It's going to be a little bit of red ink with
Okay.
brown ink,
okay.
and that's going to give it. If you used straight paint, paint's going to be too viscous looking. So if you're going for like super gory, that can be to a benefit. But I'm not trying to be super gory. I want it to look like splashes of blood. Although her sword is not sharp, it's bone. So maybe she just beats people to death.
I mean, bone can be sharp, right?
It can be sharp, but I do feel like
She probably just beats people
yeah,
to death with it. Well,
probably just beats people.
if you want to do blood for sure, those punching spikes.
Right.
Like she definitely inserts them into people's nuggets.
Yeah, like she totally just stabs people with her spikes, lift them up a la Predator style,
Yeah,
and then beats them to death with her sword.
with a blunt
Yeah.
bone sword.
Yeah.
So Riker's Iron has a really good question for you, Brendan.
All right.
Are there any tips for people applying to the studio painting position?
Tips? I don't know. You just have to want it.
You just have to want it.
You have to. I mean, it's just obvious when you want it, and you know genuinely, you just want to paint, and it kind of shows through. That's the only tip I could give. I mean, I can tell you what I did, but then you'll just do that, and then that would be like, oh, you're just copying what he did, and he said it. So obviously that would be a detriment to you, so that wouldn't help you.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing you do is ask yourself this question: can you paint 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, constantly,
And love it.
and love it? Like, is this something that you're going to be like, okay, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'll have a good time. Okay, I'm gonna ask you that same question 5 months from now. In 5 months, I'm gonna walk and be like, hey, are you having fun painting that? And if you think realistically that answer would be yes, then and you've got the skill and you know, have the portfolio, you're probably in a good spot. It's all about, just like you said, the mental attitude and the enthusiasm and the passion, because you have to have it. Any job you have, especially like in the gaming industry, whether you're being creative in game design, being creative in painting miniatures, whether you're a sculptor or illustrator, you have to be able to do that 40 hours a week, 40 or more hours a week, right?
Mm-hmm. And one of the most motivating things about the Privateer Press staff, if you ask me personally, is when I get the opportunity to go down to the painting studio and see what people are doing. People are always generally really excited about the models they're painting, and like that kind of constant enthusiasm is both infectious and like it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and the studio is just an unbelievable learning experience, because you're surrounded by everyone that is creative that works for this company at all times, and you can easily go up to somebody and ask them questions, even if it's not related to painting.
Yep.
Even if you just want to be better at art. Like I've asked Mike Valancourt like for freehand tips, because it's essentially the same thing. Like, when you go to draw this, how would you break it down to make it easier to do that? And it's just really good. So if you want to apply, just apply. Don't. The best tip I would give would be like, just apply, because a lot of people won't. They'll be like, I'm not good enough. Like, well, we're not looking for the best painter. We're looking for someone that wants to do it, that's teachable. And there's such a huge variance in what that can be, and you don't know if it's you, and you can't know if it's you. So you might as well apply, and we'll let you know if it's you.
So yeah, to kind of reset on what Rikers Iron was asking a little bit, we are hiring a new studio painter. And you can find out information about that at privateerpress.com.
So the blood you're adding to the blunt bone sword there. So it's red ink and brown ink.
Yep.
And then were you just sort of like, what technique were you just using there with the brush? Were you just were you just slapping it on?
So I am just dabbing it on.
Okay.
And I'm not worried about, and I'm going to use the second brush to kind of two-brush blend it, but I'm not trying to be smooth with it. I'm just streaking it. And the paint will start drying, so I'm not rushing to get to it like we normally would advise, because it would leave streaks, it would leave pools, and it would leave dry paint. But that's what I want, because I want it to look like the blood might have got splashed on, it started to dry, and then it got wiped away. Who knows? It's completely active, so it looks more realistic to be sloppy. So if you want to practice two-brush blending, maybe you should practice with blood, because when you get better, you'll know when you're better, because it'll stop looking like blood.
Yeah.
And I saw a question asking the difference between the fresh blood recipe and dried, and it's just when it's dried, it's darker. That's really all it is. So don't add as much red ink, and that's the easiest way to kind of differentiate. Like, the drier it gets, the darker it looks.
Cool.
And you just use brown ink to darken?
Yeah, I mean, you could use straight brown ink as well. Like, I've done this. This is the red and brown ink, and if I wanted to do another pass, I could, or I could just do a pass of just brown ink, which is I'll do. I could even add in some darker color, which I'm just going to add in that coal black and Thamar real quick. And that's just going to literally darken it all up, obviously. And I'll just do it in smaller blotches over top of the first pass of red there, just to look like it was a bigger spill that just started drying more.
Learned so much, man.
Because this is more akin to painting texture. I'm not trying to create shadows. I'm not trying to create anything with these. I'm just trying to apply these different elements that draws visual interest, but at the same time looks natural.
Sure.
That's why you want to use real-world references and just simulating those. Even if it's not dead on, it doesn't need to be. It'll look like what it's supposed to look like, because you're just faking it. If you want to. I mean, you could just use real blood, probably. I wouldn't advise playing with it.
We probably shouldn't condone that.
If you do,
I'm not condoning it,
yeah.
You're just saying
but it's a possibility.
If you do use real blood, you should seal your model with a matte varnish afterward.
Why?
You know, to protect the finish. You don't. Real blood will eventually scrape off, easier than paint.
This is getting weird. This is getting super weird.
In fact, you might want to gloss varnish first for a nice hard shell, and then dull it down with a matte varnish.
I think the advice is to use brown ink and red ink. That's what we're going with.
I mean, yeah. Definitely don't spray it red. Just don't get like a red spray can. You're like, psh. Oh no, my whole model.
I ruined everything.
So I'm going to tell a quick painting story, quick painting nightmare story. Friend of mine, Andy Podell, friend of yours as well. Best mage hunter of all time during the heyday of hardcore.
Yep.
Finished.
He's a legend.
He's a legend and a wonderful man. Finished painting this model that he had spent hours and hours. And I'm going to say, I mean, like he spent somewhere in the range, I'm going to think like 40, 50, 60 hours. And it was on a single model. I believe it was one of his casters. And it looked phenomenal, right? And he finished it, shut it off, and then went back to dull coat it. And he wasn't paying attention. And he grabbed the black primer instead.
No.
And without looking, like just real quick, he held it up and he primed it black.
So I'm actually terrified of matte varnish, and I actually rarely use it. And that's like one of the, it's not really a secret, but it's like one of the little known things about a lot of even professional level painters. A lot of people actually don't varnish. It certainly, you know, if you do a good job of it, it certainly protects your finish. That's for sure. And your models will be a little bit more durable. But if you did a good job priming, it doesn't make a massive difference, and you're not taking as much risk of like ruining everything with a frosty coat or something like that.
Yeah, I don't matte varnish. I don't matte varnish any of my miniatures. I did for a while. Then I had a couple instances where I had finished a model spent a long time on, and I got the frost. And yeah, if I ever decide I need to matte varnish something, which is don't, I would probably paint it on instead of spray it on, because you can get the ones you can paint on. But I play a lot of games weekly with a lot of miniatures, and I've yet to have any like chipping or issues that couldn't quickly be fixed if there was a problem.
What about you, Brennan? Do you varnish your models?
I do, and I always will, but I've never had issues with frosting. And I don't disagree with what you guys are saying at all. If I've ever had a model chip, it had nothing to do with wear and tear from my skin's oils. It's always been because a model slammed into it or it fell.
Yeah.
And like, it didn't matter if it was varnished. It's getting chipped. Like something dug in, ripped off the layers.
Right.
And that's...
So why do you varnish then?
Just in case.
Okay.
As well as it is a part of the process, particularly in the studio, because it dulls down the metals.
Sure.
You know, we generally, and I prefer true metallic metals, so I will continue to paint this way. Okay. And then you go with like the super bright tings with metal afterwards. That's our method. That's the method I did before I even worked here, before I even knew that was the studio's method. And I'll continue to do it. But it's also just in case. It's not because I'm not careful with my models, but some people want to pick up my models and look at them, and I'm totally fine with it. But I don't know where their hands have been, or they are. They just, and that might, if it's not been dull coated or whatever, matte varnished, I don't know what that'll do to the paint. Like, what if they just got done eating like greasy chicken wings?
Or what if they work in a septic tank, right? And they didn't wear gloves
and they
that
just
day.
came out of the septic tank,
Right.
like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They just came out of the sewer,
And they weren't
they're
wearing
like,
gloves
look
that
at
day.
that guy's models through the window of the game store, and
Yeah.
they walk in,
And they just grab it.
just water spewing everywhere, sewage just leaking out from beneath their pants.
Yeah.
Their bell bottoms. Of
And
course, 'cause that's what you wear when
just
you go to
grab
sewer.
your lock, and
Yeah.
they hold it up, and then just throw it down, just walk away.
Yeah, and it's just
You're
like, all right,
what happened?
I'm glad I put on some matte varnish.
Man, there's a job that if you ever forget your gear, say that you like work in the sewers and you like clean out septic tanks, and you're like, I forgot my gloves today. Your life's a nightmare.
Oh man,
I mean, you can't actually go to work. I think it's actually just you break so many violations.
right. Or you just had the worst work day ever.
Oh, could you imagine if you're like, do it anyway, and you're like,
Or you don't have to call in sick. You just have to forget your gloves at home, and you don't have to work that day. Interesting.
rub your eyes afterwards and just
Oh no, thank you.
into the world.
Legionnaire says, humidity is the bane of matte varnish. Yes, you are correct.
I came from humidity, but I'm a rebel that sprayed in my bathtub and had the
Ooh.
fan on and then just didn't go in. I planned it out. I was like, I don't have to go to the bathroom for a little while. Now's the time to dull coat.
See, we have a great luxury at Privateer Preston that we have an indoor spray hood. And I tell people it's like it's one of the greatest perks of working at Privateer Press. If you're a serious hobbyist, having an indoor spray hood is magic because the weather here is so bad sometimes that you're like it's so wet and it's so cold so often. But when it gets really hot in the summer and really dry, that spray hood I find gets like really like too dry. The area around the spray hood, especially for varnishing.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the weather, my painting sabbatical just ended. Basically, there is about 6 weeks every year that I can't paint. And that's because it gets hot here. And those of you that aren't used to the Pacific Northwest or Seattle, no one has air conditioning. Like, it just doesn't exist up here because the weather's so mild and comfortable most of the time that through the, like, 6 weeks where it's actually, like, hot, you just sort of suffer through it. I have little personal air conditioners, like room air conditioners at my house, but the dryness in the air makes it to where like I'll put the paint on my brush and I'll have it watered down. I'll do a couple strokes in the miniature and then my paint's done, like it's dried out. And so, and I could use a wet palette. I could use the P3 wet palette. I guess I'm not used to it, so I'm getting ready to start painting again.
Yeah. So the same thing happens to me sometimes. Like when it's really dry, your palette will just dry out too fast. And I know Dallas
here in the studio.
I know in the studio. I know, and I know Dallas has like a little personal humidifier that he keeps on his desk. So I guess like if you're struggling with that situation, that's one route you can go to kind of deal with that is have like a little humidifier in your space.
I never even thought about that.
And also, if you're going to apply for the studio painter position, keep that in mind. You don't have to deal with it.
Yeah. So Brennan, what are you working on right now?
Now I'm just shading the hair.
Yeah.
Kind of tying it all together a little bit more. Just putting in some cool red, kind of like a sanguine base plus some coal black.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, what colors are you using to do the shading?
Yeah, sanguine base and coal black.
Cool.
And it's just thinned down heavily. I'm just using it like a wash. So if your color transition between layers is minimal, doing a wash afterwards, not a great idea because you're not going to be able to see it. But if it's pretty heavy on the contrast, right? Like if you go like super color shift in your values and it's super poppy, like then you can apply like a wash either selectively over the whole thing and then it ties it all together. Functions still like a wash, and like on her hair, which you can kind of see.
Yeah.
Kind of just has a smoother finish, and I didn't have to be smooth when I was actually painting it, so it could be faster. And that's what I'm doing with this. To get to the point.
The blood effects on that you did on the spike and the store looked like they kind of started to, I guess, dry. Now.
Yeah. So this is where your body goes in.
Yeah.
And she lifts you up. So I'm gonna make sure there's enough gore bits here, specifically here, because this is where she beats you to death.
Yeah. It's when she's lifted you up, she beats you to death with the blunt sword.
Yeah.
Looks good. You got a lot of like cool little details done today. The tattoos, the blood work, making the hair pop.
Trying to, yeah. That's the plan. All right, so we're gonna let that dry a little bit. I'm just gonna kind of do this. Gonna pull it.
Oh, so you're specifically pooling the ink to make it look
Like
particularly gory.
This is where the head goes.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Do it in a couple of little layers, but and this is the same way we do weathering on like battle damage and stuff. Generally, is you can just let it start to dry, and then you can just take another brush and kind of just pull it like that.
You know what weathering technique I've been using a lot lately is I take the foam from the blister packs and dip it in a little bit of like a dump, like the Umbral Umber. Then sort of just dab it, and this works really well on armor. Like dab it across the armor to make those random specks, and then get pig iron, and put the same in the pig iron, and then go back over the same spots to give the idea that the metal and the paint on the metal is chipping away, and you could see the metal underneath. It's really fast to do. It works great on jacks. Like if you take a Kador jack and you just hit it with that umber, and then you hit it with the pig iron afterwards on the same spots, and you will make you will look like your jack is chipped. Like you screwed it up.
Like I just did that on the Studio McKay, and exactly like you said, and it's the studio one.
Yeah,
so it's not like it's a cheap technique.
Yeah,
No.
that's
that
studio tech.
it does look.
It's so easy and it looks so good, and you can go as heavy or light as you want to. I just recommend when you start doing it, like dab really lightly on the miniature to get a feel for it and where those random patterns are going to appear. Don't just dunk it in paint and then it's almost like dry brushing. Like you want to put some paint on it and kind of get most of it off, and then dab, dab, dab.
Yeah.
Yeah, work it out on a paper towel first.
Yeah,
Don't go straight to your model.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be a nightmare.
That would be a nightmare.
We call it stippling when you go straight down and up.
Oh yeah.
When you're dabbing it like that. Yeah.
That's what you're here for.
I can learn you something. But yeah, even when I talk about stippling, it's usually it's like dry brushing, but up and down. Finish out this hair, I think. Yeah, I think the tattoo work is done for now. There's just unfortunately not enough surface area.
I mean, you got a lot done, man. I mean,
I did most of them. I didn't do the worm. I'm upset
that's all right.
that I didn't do the worm. I'm gonna find another model to do the worm on, and it's not gonna be like the Devour worm.
Sure.
It's gonna be like an apple with a worm coming out, snacking on a lollipop Menifex.
Nice.
Brilliant.
And I mean, dude, we're already 50 minutes into our 1 hour of the show, and you've got a lot done.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what Pagani does with the rest of it.
So let's see. In Twitch chat, Scourge of Eden says dry brushing. I never got the hang of that when I was trying to paint my models. So Scourge, I had the same problem. I've recently I'd say my painting has increased over the last 3 years from terrible to novice / intermediate. Like I'm starting to get happy with where I paint my things. And for a while there, dry brushing of all things also eluded me. And my friends were like, dude, it's dry brushing. How can you not do it? What helped me was knowing that you need to, it's okay to replace your dry brushes. I would usually go through about one a month. Get the paint on there, then get a paper towel, and I usually work it in a circular motion, just in one like really tight circle to get all the paint off, and then use the crook of your hand between your thumb and your index finger, and rub the brush back and forth because your skin has really good texture on it, and you'll see how much paint you're leaving behind on the texture of your skin. Then think of it like tickling the miniature. You are imagine that you were tickling a wee little baby duck, and that's what you're doing in the miniature. You're not trying to go super hard unless you're going for like an overbrush or a wet brush. You're just trying to just kind of go back and forth and just give it time. Be gentle. Go back and forth over the same area for a while, and you'll start to see that color build up. And that's what really helped me, was figuring out the amount of pressure I needed to add and how to get the right amount of paint on the brush.
Well.
So you can't see on the camera, but also using your own hand for a palette is also studio tech.
Yeah. Well, I don't say that's studio tech. That's a standard thing.
Hey, if studio does it, it's studio tech.
Well, what he was talking about with the dry brush, using your own skin to see how much is coming off, that is exactly what I'm doing with my hand, but just with the brush itself, so I know how much control I have over it. So it's the same thing.
What technique eludes you still to this day?
Eludes me?
Yeah.
Nothing. He's the master of
That could be the
everything.
answer. I doubt that's the
no,
answer.
no,
Like, no one's going to ever say they're perfect and everything. Like, what is a technique that, I say eludes maybe the wrong word. What's a technique you're like, man, I really want to get better at?
So I wouldn't phrase the question like that. That wouldn't be the question I'm asking myself now. It's like dry brushing is, there's not that many techniques. And even mastering them isn't really what's important, I would say. I would say what's important is understanding what the technique can do for you and what you're trying to get out of it. Because it's like, what are you going to do with dry brushing? Well, you're gonna dry, like, what are you trying to achieve? Because if you tell me how to dry brush, but that's not what I'm using that technique to do something else, your advice isn't going to help me out as much. So like trying to figure out like what technique is best for a given situation is more of like, you have the tool set. Like that's where I'm at. Like with,
how to apply the tool?
Yeah, with the tool set, what needs to, how do you get to where you want to go? Right? It's not like, oh, how can I dry brush better? It's what steps are involved before and after that get me to you know, the place that I need to be.
I see. I find your answer really interesting because for you, you've got this really more in-depth look at it. For someone like me, if someone asked me that question like totally makes sense to me. And I'd be like, oh, edge highlighting.
Yeah.
Like, I got to get better at my edge highlighting. I'm not that great at it. And for you, you're like past all that. And you're like, what cool things.
Not that I
do?
can't get better at that stuff.
Of course,
by
no,
adding
but you're
on.
like,
Yeah,
what can I do with these skill sets that you've mastered? And what else can you apply them towards? And so I find
where can you go with it?
Yeah, that's a really cool answer.
To kind of try to find another way of doing things. Because I think you can easily get into the rote of like, these are the techniques you use. These are how you use them. These are the recipes you have. These are the recipes you use. And you kind of just become rote. And then you stop actually questioning how can you do something different. And how can you get better at something? You're like, oh, I'm not getting better. It's like, well, you keep doing the same exact thing.
Is that kind of where non-metallic metals came from? Was the concept of we've been painting swords with metallic paints for so long? What's a different way we could do it?
I don't think so. I don't know the exact reason. I mean, there is a reason for non-metallic metal. Like there's certain strengths to it.
Sure.
Over true metallic metal. But I mean, it could just be a sign of the times because, like, if you look at even the history of any art. Like, there's always those people that are like, screw the way it's being done. I'm going to do it differently. And then that starts a new age, essentially. Or starts a new movement. And then it starts doing something completely differently.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen, again, in miniature painting. Because it's going to always happen.
Scourge of Eden says, thanks for the advice. Yeah, we're always here every Thursday, 10 a.m. to talk about painting. So, you know, ask us questions. And, you know, Brendan, Dallas, whoever's going to be here will be happy to share their wisdom. One little piece of advice I'll give you for dry brushing is when you're changing colors and you have to wash out your brush eventually, like make sure you really get that brush dry or it's gonna ruin that next color. And like I take a real towel, like a hand towel, to dry out my brush, to make sure it's dry rather than just like wiping it down on a paper towel.
Yeah, make sure your water is clean too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the thing is when you like, if I'm put my water like this. Even if my brush looks clean, those particles will start going up in there, into the ferrule of the brush. And then they'll start drying, and my brush will look clean, but then it'll be like, why is it fraying? Why is it getting weird? And it's because those paint particles that are in the water will go up. Don't get like obsessive about changing your water out every time, but just keep it in mind. Like if it's super dirty, you should probably change it out, even if your brush looks clean. Probably not in the inside if it's that dirty all the time.
Well, we got to start wrapping things up. Brendan, before anything else you want to add to close out this session and get your paint on?
I don't think so.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
It's been awesome having you on and doing all the tattoos and showing us the blood effects. For everybody watching, quick reminder, this is the last stream of the week, but don't forget that we stream 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Tuesdays, you can catch us for the weekly Rumble, where we play War Machine, Monster Apocalypse, Extreme Colossal Wrestling, all the different games we make. Wednesdays is Developer Hangout with myself, Pagani, and Oz, where we talk about CID and whatever's going on in the development of the games. And then you just watch the Thursday show, which is Get Your Paint On with the studio, where hobby tips and tricks, hanging out, painting miniatures, doing sweet-looking tattoos and blood effects on blunt bone weapons to beat people to death.
This is what you do. Yeah.
And for those of you looking at picking up some new miniatures, quick reminder, Supreme Guardian is available for pre-order at store.privateerpress.com till September 10th. With you pre-order, you get the sweet Black Anchor patch, and also the new mini crate cycle just started, mini-crate.com. Go visit that website. You can check out the new Red Riding Rose, and you can also see the Alexia Handmaiden of Death VIP model you can get for a 6-month subscription.
All right. Well, thanks, Hungerford. Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you guys.
It's been a fun show.
I learned actually a lot, dude.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff you just taught me about that. Like mixing the flesh in with the paint to do the tattoo is like a really good tip. I had never even considered that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do it here, but again, like if you want it to look more realistic or worn or like it's been aged, like that's generally what happens, right? Your tattoos fade; they don't look as black as they did or colorful as they did or saturated when they first got done.
I think it'll be great on Sea Dogs to do some old faded,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
sea worn tattoos, like some anchors and stuff, some black anchors. That'd be
Yeah, I
really
mean, I
good.
think that's how the studio models were done.
That's
pretty
awesome.
pretty worn and whatnot.
Cool.
So.
All right.
Well, that's a wrap. We will see you next week with more streams. And goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Have a good one.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Yeah, is that your sweet echo effect?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think it's time to go to Jimmy John's and get myself a number 16. I'm super hungry right now.
Jimmy John's, you and Jimmy John's.
Dude, I love my Jimmy John's.